So good and requires so much to process. To ask the question you mentioned earlier, why did we stop at a couple of offices functions? We seem to have focused on raising up teachers and pastors, not always true under shepherds, and occasionally evangelists instead of equipping those Jesus calls. Well, I will tell you exactly why, at least one of the main reasons, okay? So I'll leave that up there for a minute so you guys can see it. Why did we stop? I'll tell you exactly why. About 500 AD, the early church had successfully turned the world upside down. How did they do it? By following the biblical blueprint. We had apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers that were equipping the saints for the work of the ministry. And because they were operating in the full blueprint, they were operating in the full fivefold. And again, they weren't perfect. Nobody's perfect, but they at least had the full set of prints, right? So then what happened is the Roman Empire, obviously, we've had problems with, all throughout history with the Roman Empire, but Constantine comes in, and now all of a sudden he wants to make Christianity the official religion of Rome. Now, the problem with that is that Constantine was still very loyal to demonic cults. One of them, the main demonic cult that he was loyal to, was Mithrius. Mithras, however it's pronounced, Mithrias. You can Google it, Wikipedia, look it up. Okay, so Mithrius was a cult that its headquarters, its main temple was Vatican City. What else is in Vatican City, right? Well, it became the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church. But what happened is the Mithrius temple was literally Vatican City. So they just turned it into the headquarters for Christianity. They took Mithrius and they incorporated many of the pagan rituals. They incorporated many of the pagan beliefs into Christianity. And so when it became the official religion of the Roman Empire, then it became mandated how people worshiped. And so what Constantine did is he shut down the fivefold immediately. There were no more prophets, no more apostles, no more pastors, no more teachers, no more evangelists. He just shut it all down. And instead, they took the terms out of Mithrius, right? So Mithrius had a papal father or a pope. And so now that got brought over to Christianity, and that became the head apostle. But they didn't call him an apostle; they called him a pope, right? But they got by saying, oh, that's really, he's really, the head apostle. But they didn't call him that; they called him the pope. They instituted these cardinals. That's not even in the Bible, but that was Mithrius, right? So they took all these pagan rituals and pagan terms, and they completely shut down the fivefold, and they instituted all these pagan rituals and pagan offices, right? Priests, right? Those were all, it was all, obviously the word priest is in the Old Testament, but they took the term priest because they were priests in Mithrius. And so all the implements that, like the shepherd's rod, all the different, the incense, all the things that they did in the ceremony were taken out of Mithrius. And so for so long, the Roman Catholic Church was just, that was it. If you were a Christian, that's what you were, right? Until the Reformation. Now, the Reformation, interestingly enough, was exactly 500 years ago. Now we see a shift about every 500 years in the body of Christ. There's like a cycle that happens, and we're right at that cycle right now. So the Reformation happened. You see, okay, around 500 AD is when the Roman Catholic Church came in and the fivefold got shut down. That was 500 years. And then there was 500 years. Now we're at another 500-year mark from the Reformation. And so there is a Reformation happening again in the body of Christ. But this time, we're reforming things fully, I believe. At least that's the goal. I believe that it's going to happen because we've already, the prophetic has already been brought back into the body of Christ all the way through the 80s. The whole Kansas City Prophets, that whole movement, the prophetic really got brought back into the church. And in the 90s, people started talking about the apostolic. What happened is all of a sudden people just started using the title, not understanding the function. Anyway, back to why. When Martin Luther came in and the Reformation happened, they stopped charging people to get people out of purgatory. They stopped charging money, for people to get certain prayers, all that was good. But they really didn't reinstitute the fivefold. All they did is take the office of a priest and they changed it to the office of a pastor. And if you read Martin Luther's writings, the reason that they called the leader of the church a pastor is because it sounded like priest. They just didn't want people to have to go through too much change all at once. And so they just wanted a title that sounded like priest. So it was similar. What a great reason to call the leader of a church a name, because it sounds like something else, right? So that's why, Chris, that's why the fivefold offices stopped, because the Roman Catholic Church. And we see the Roman Catholic Church is still a very large influence in the world. As you know, if you've been in ministry for any amount of time, or just, life, right? People don't like change. And so the traditions of man are very powerful. And I'm sure you've heard people say, well, we do it this way because this is the way it's always been done. It's the way we've always done it. That's one of the reasons why it's been so hard to reinstitute the fivefold, is because for 1,500 years, right, we've been operating without it. So really, the last time it fully functioned was about 100 AD. And we're now just coming back into a season where we're about to see it fully functioning again. And now there are some ministries that already have it fully functioning, but what I mean by see it fully functioning again is, I mean, like universally, around the world, the entire body of Christ. Like, that's where we need to get to.